Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and welcome to another episode of the Power Hour.
Yes, welcome to episode 97, first episode of this wonderful year already of 2021. Yeah. But we're starting off on the right foot, unlike most people, because we have a guest this week. And she comes to us from the podcast known as Petee's Power Hour. She is part of the Polykill Network. We've had a ton of them on our show, luckily. And her name is Michelle, and she is with us here tonight. Michelle, how you doing?
Hello. Great. Well, happy to be here. Oh my gosh. I feel like this is a battle of the power hours, don't you think?
At least you have a little certain zing on yours, like Petey's Power Hour. It's like, okay, you're not going to be completely SEO fucked like we are. Like, if you go into iTunes and look for the Power Hour podcast, good luck finding us through like 100 of them. So we're good at this. We made smart decisions. So at least you're off on the right foot there.
That super original idea. It's like, yeah, we'll do the Power Hour because we're never going to go above an hour. And then how many episodes, Jim, do we have now? Over like 2 hours sometimes?
Jesus. We have a few over, like straddling 3. Even like by the end, I'm just like, fuck, just end.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Michelle, we were talking beforehand. We've had similar guests on. First time I've heard her, she had Pam from Cannot Be Tamed on. So great guest. And yeah, Michelle, really welcome. Thank you for coming on as a fellow booze hound of a different sort because you like other things. And we'll touch on that. But as we always do, we always start off by talking about what we're drinking. And I'll call myself the asshole right off the bat. Because today I am not drinking alcohol. And no, I am not participating in Dry January on purpose. But I did decide every year I give myself some stupid idiotic challenge. And I was like, let me go this month and not drink. And my brother right away thought I was doing Dry January. Didn't know that was a thing. Jim was disappointed in me.
I'm calling bullshit. You're doing the goddamn trend, but you don't want to say you're doing the trend.
I have no problem saying I'm... Number one, I have no problem... What? There's no shame in my game. I have no problem admitting when I do stupid shit, Jim. So this was just a very weird, like, oh, that's a thing. But it's all planned out because on episode 100 will be February 1st. And I have a lot of specialty beers that I will be drinking then. But in the meantime, we're going to let Michelle go first. And what are you drinking with us?
I thought I would be festive to the theme of your guys' podcast and drink beer. So I have a local brewery called Atlas Brewing Works. They're based out of DC. And I'm drinking their Blood Orange Gose with fruit ale brewed with pink Himalayan salt. Oh. So fancy.
Now let me ask you, I wouldn't necessarily call you a non-beer drinker, but obviously beer is not your forte. Seeing things like that in beer, like Himalayan salt, were you like, what is this? Or had you had experience with this style before, and you're like, okay, this is something I like?
I really like Gose style, especially ones that are a little bit more salt and citrusy influenced, like a lime or lemon with a little bit of salt in it I really like, especially in the summer. But I am not a huge fan of the big hoppy IPAs. Like something about that bitterness of those hops and such. I'm like, I just can't. I'm just not a fan. And then we get into the whole mess of things with Brettanomyces, and I'm like, oh hell no, I can't do that. So
I don't even know what that is, and I run the beer show.
Well, Jim,
I'm a cheap date.
What type of hoppy beer are you drinking?
Well, Bri, comes to us from the Barrel Brothers Brewing Company. It's called the Milk Was a Bad Choice Orange Cream Milkshake Double IPA, brewed with oranges, tangerines, lactose, and vanilla. It's got.
Where are they based?
Good question. Let's see here. Windsor, California. 8% alcohol by volume. Shitload of text on there, which tonight I won't bore everyone with. You get off lucky, Bri.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, normally to torture Brian, I'll try to read it as like condescendingly as possible, but it's like 4 paragraphs on here, so I won't do that to the poor people out there. But yeah, so far this pretty much just looks like orange juice.
Yeah, it really does.
Like it's
compare.
And it's weird
Mine's
too.
so
Yeah.
pale.
Yeah.
And it's weird too because when I first poured it out, it must like all like went to the bottom with the
All the
sedimentation and
sediment.
everything.
Yeah.
Because like the beginning, it was like kind of clearish, like you could see all the carbonation, and then it turned into orange juice. But very citrusy, and so far pretty goddamn good, I have to say.
How's the accumulation at the bottom looking?
Actually, not too many. You can see some particulates. All right, you can see some stuff down there.
Yeah.
Like it's a combination of like the particulates and the like the carbonation bubbles. So
Jim, I know that tends to not freak you out, but that bothers you a little bit. I feel like when you see beers with too much sediment at the bottom.
it used to back in the day. I'm just like, oh, this beer's dirty, and you're like, no, it's part of the brewing process. I'm like, yeah, dirty. But I mean, at this point, I've just drank so much shit that just pour it down my mouth. I don't care anymore. I've given up. As long as it's tasty.
Now, I should say, Michelle, I made the comment, you're not a beer person, so instead of trying to terribly paraphrase, why don't you explain to people, what is your podcast all about, and what is your, I guess, alcohol of choice?
Anything besides beer, I guess.
Perfect show to come
No!
No, I do enjoy beer. Again, but I have a background in liquor and wine, more so wine probably. And really, what the pandemic sort of started was my inability to meet with people and talk to people and educate, which is one of my favorite things about previously being in the wine business and liquor business. So podcasts I sort of found as a way to help myself quench that thirst of education and reach out to people and drink with people virtually and educate, because that's the fun part, like about alcohol. It's not about just drinking it by yourself. It's about sharing it with other people. So that's really the point of the podcast. I just wanted to share.
No, I love that.
For healthy people, it's about not doing it by yourself.
That's true. That's true. There is a very fine line you can easily cross. Hopefully I haven't crossed it yet, but who knows? Maybe someday.
Or you can just say you're doing it for a website.
Yeah, it's totally not just an excuse to get together, drink a bunch of beer, and be like, oh, we're doing reviews. They're completely legitimate.
Yeah, that's fine.
So with your love of wine, more specific, when did it turn from, you're just casually drinking this to all of a sudden you're getting more of an appreciation and you're starting to like, oh, this one just tastes good. Now you're like really digging deep into it.
So that probably started for me like a billion years ago. No, not a billion, but like, like right out of college. I started working for this like video production studio in DC. It was 2008. I got laid off. Yay! And then
Perfect timing.
Yep.
perfect. Like you graduate college, you get laid off. It's life in your early 20s. Yay! And then I started working in restaurants as something to do because there was no jobs, and it sort of just clicked that the alcohol and there was classes being offered with the restaurant group, so I just had tastings with it, and it just like I was like, this is fun. Why can't I do this for my job? So I made it so I could do it for my job.
That's awesome.
That's sort of when it just happened. I was like, I like food. Why not like drinking too?
No, I like that. That's really awesome. And so, if I completely butcher this, are you like a sommelier? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I have a lot of strong feelings about the word sommelier.
Okay.
Mostly because a person who is a sommelier is somebody who manages the wine list at a restaurant.
Okay.
And that's it.
That's it. Okay.
That's pretty much it. There is the Guild of Sommeliers, which is an educational program you can do that emphasizes on the service and as well as some educational stuff. But I never worked as somebody who managed a wine list. I was a buyer for a retailer. So I have a different set of skills for that, but I never considered myself a somm. And I always like people who like come up to me like, "Oh, do you want to become a somm?" I'm like, "Bitch, no." All right? I already know more than some of these somms. But like it's just a job title that is just over exaggerated. So I get like I get on my soapbox about it.
You put a fancy little ampersand on anything, all of a sudden everyone thinks you're an expert. Shit.
Yeah, make it sound French and sexy, and people are like, ooh. I'm like, who cares?
I just love that tone of voice as you were describing it. You're just like, yeah, you can go to a class for bullshit, and then,
It is well, okay, it's not bullshit, but I didn't want to do that method because it was pretty much the process is like, here's a set of books and you can just go learn and go drink and figure it out and then take the test. Versus I took the WSET, which is the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, and that is a in-class program where they do tastings with you, and it's more of a formal setting versus like saying, oh, here's some books and go figure it out. Like, no, I want to learn. I learn by somebody talking to me versus me sitting there with a textbook. Like, that's boring.
I know exactly what you're talking about. As doing a ton of research for beer reviews for what we do, one of the things I considered is trying to get certification for like the Beer Judge Association. And similarly, it is, here's a book, you take like a 2 or 3 hour test, and if you qualify, like, I'm like, that sounds like that doesn't seem right. Like, and just for the title, I don't know, that didn't really appeal to me. But it's funny because a few episodes ago we had a head brewer on, and similarly, like, part of her job, obviously, aside from coming up with beers, is tasting others, coordinating with people. But one of the things Jim and I've always struggled with, now that not that we have a critical eye like you, but when you're trying new alcohols, is it always almost feel like a job, or can you kind of turn that part of your brain off and just sit back and strictly enjoy? Or are you always kind of analyzing now because you do it so often?
I wish I could turn it off.
Oh, no, ruined.
I wish I could. I'm like one of those douchebags sitting at the table during dinner with their nose in the glass, just sitting there swirling, smelling. I'm like, God, this is like, it's always turned on if I'm drinking something. Unless it's beer, because I somehow I can turn it off with beer, so this is good.
It's like, it's your last bastion of not caring. So you're just like, fuck it, I'm just getting drunk.
You're like, man, this one really has legs on it, and you're.
Now we know the feeling too, because like I know Brian can attest too. Like, there's a lot of times where we're just like casually playing a game, and like if I'm at the point now, a lot of the time where if I'm not like recording it as I'm playing it, part of me is like, oh, I'm kind of wasting time. Like, this could go towards content, or this could go towards something to talk about. Blah blah blah. So, yeah, it's once you get into like your hobbies and make like a little thing out of it, it's tough to turn that off.
Yeah, that critical mind, and yeah, it's funny you say that, Michelle, because I can't have, it's very rare I have a beer just to enjoy it, or like, outside of beer, we don't review anything else, but I do similar ideas with bourbons, and unfortunately now, I'm at that point where I've had so many that I like, but I'm always wanting to try a new one, so I just keep getting new stuff just to keep trying it, so it's like, yeah, I kind of know how that feels, but once again, obviously, you do it much more critically, probably, because that's part of your job. You kind of have to. But when was the last time you actually were able to just sit back and straight up just enjoy a wine? I guess I'll stay specific to that, and not think. Like, just, you know what, I'm going to crack open this bottle, and... It's been a while, huh?
Uh-oh.
12 years ago.
Oh,
Even
poor soul.
I opened a bottle of champagne for New Year's, and still, like, it's New Year's. Thank God 2020's freaking over. I open it up. I'm still, like, analyzing the cork, looking at the bubbles in the glass, like that kind of bullshit. I'm like, oh my God, it's never gonna end.
Now, do your friends all give you hell, like, if they're drinking with you? Like, just drink it.
Oh, yeah, they do. I think I'm the weirdo over here. God.
I know that pain. But, I mean, like I said, that's part of, I'm sure that analytical part of your mind is getting enjoyment out of it. It's just different than, like you're saying, you're having beer right now. You're not thinking about it. You're just able to enjoy. So, what, outside of wine, though, from a liquor standpoint, what would you say is your favorite there?
That's tough. Oh my gosh. I probably drink the most out of all categories whiskey.
Okay.
Second would be tequila / mezcal. Then gin. And then, so I have to include like aperitifs and amaros and things like that in there because those are freaking fabulous and always get overlooked. So people should drink their freaking amaros because, oh my god. But probably bourbon, rye, and like Irish whiskey and such are probably the big three that I drink the most out of. And the most I play around with cocktails since I love them so much. I'm not a fan of vodka, as I... Trav from the Polykill Discord, I like to say, because he loves vodka and I like to give him shit about it.
He does love his vodkas too.
Yeah.
Now, is there a particular, I mean, and you know much more, so this is a great time for you to educate me if I say something stupid.
Nope.
Is part of the reason you don't like vodka? Because I've always viewed vodka as the best quality vodka is the thing that tastes the least like vodka. It tastes like nothing. So it's meant to be, I don't want to call it, it's the filler of alcohols. Like you're always looking to combine it. It's not something I feel like a lot of people sit back and enjoy. Like, oh, I love the taste of this. Like you would a bourbon or a whiskey.
Yeah, I think it's because it's so neutral. It's very hard when you're tasting vodka to pick up its nuances, whether it be like cucumber or more of a citrus fruit note to it. And a lot of it's dependent upon its base, whether it's like wheat, corn, or potato or whatever. And it's so, because it's distilled like 4 to 9 times or whatever it is, that it's really, all you're doing every time you distill it is just stripping more stuff out of it. So it's so nuanced that I think it's a great cocktail maker because you can just combine it with something super fruity and be like, ooh, yeah, tropical fun drink, and there you go. But I'm just like, it's so plain to me, and I'm sorry, vodka lovers.
Here's what I'll say. I've never met a vodka lover that defended vodka. I think anyone that I know who likes vodka admits, like, they just want actual alcohol in their fruity or their whatever mixer. They don't like the taste of other alcohols. They don't appreciate them. And vodka is that. Like it is, like you're saying. Neutral is the best word I've heard described for it. So that makes the most sense. It's just grown up adult water at that point. You know?
It is. It's adult water.
But I like that you said whiskey because that's definitely where my heart is. And, are you bourbon over the Irish whiskeys?
It depends on the day. To be honest, like I've been to Ireland, so I kind of have like an ooh, I've been there, like ooh, I love it because I have a couple bottles I bought there. But bourbons, I mean, yeah, it really depends on the day. If I'm looking for something sweet or something a little bit more dry, or something spicy with rye. I don't know.
No, Jim and I have talked about this too, and since you have appreciation for all types of different alcohols, the mood, just like a song, I feel like alcohol like really fits a very particular mood, and it's obvious enough. You drink certain alcohols with certain foods because they complement them. But yeah, there is definitely a thing about like, I don't care what it is. If you're at a barbecue, there's something about a cold beer that makes the most sense there. And it's not like you want to break out like it's 100-degree day. Like let me get the whiskey out right now. Like that's not the right thing. Or let me crack open this wine. Like it's probably not going to mix as well. So yeah, the mood is all about it. And as you said, people who don't drink whiskey won't understand. But yeah, some days are bourbon, some days the Irish whiskey. So
some days it's Scotch.
Yeah. Scotch is definitely more rare for me. I found like I do like it. I don't have as much experience with it, and I was in Ireland too, and we did, the Jameson test. We did a few other, but like we found the best experience was talking to local like pub owners about some other local Irish whiskeys, ones I've never heard of, and still to this day I can't find here. But yeah, it's like a whole different world over there, and the appreciation for it's completely different, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about scotches do you not like? Is it the peatiness?
Oh, no. Let me... Yeah, I don't want to say I don't... I really do like them. I've just realized my problem is I've had only the lowest tier scotches and then higher tier. Like, I never had an in between, and I love peatiness in scotches. And when I've been with people, I go with people to bars and they get like a crazy expensive. I don't even know what I'm drinking. They're like, "Oh, just try this one." I take a sip. I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome," but I don't feel like paying $50 a glass again. So that realm of like trying to put out that kind of money, I need to do a lot more tasting before I dive. Because that same head brewer we were talking to, do you remember, Jim? She mentioned like she had a whole wall of whiskeys, and she had the McMullen 12 behind her, 13 and 25. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I was like, putting out $2,500 for a bottle, that's not something I would want to do, because I'd be scared to ever take a sip of it. Like, I'd always be like, "Ooh, no, I gotta save it.
Yeah, like there's no special occasion to me that's special enough to like take a sip of something that expensive. Yeah, Michelle, just imagine like this wall of bullshit behind like me and Brian, basically. Imagine that, but just like all these high class liquor bottles. We're just like, damn.
So, but no, I do love the peatiness, and it's one of those ones where I'm discovering more and more bourbons and whiskeys at this point. That over the past 2 months, I've discovered 3 new Irish whiskeys that I never heard of before, and I love, like a Sexton, Slan, and Dead Rabbit are 3 I've never tried before, and they're like, most people complain about the bite of Irish whiskey sometimes. These things are so damn smooth. I was like, what are you talking about, bites? Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. Love me some Irish whiskey. Come on.
Yeah.
No, I totally get you though. Like the illusion that more expensive is better is something that I also wanted to try to tackle with like my podcast and such, because I've found that just because it's $1,000 does not mean it's going to be any better than $50. Like it becomes a point where it's a status item. And I've had some wines that are stupid expensive, things I'll never ever try again. And I've found more enjoyment in some of the things that are like under $100. Okay. It's finding those items that are special, have a unique story, and have that quality. Like, I'm looking for something from some small little winery in the middle of nowhere, France, or some distillery that is just making like 1,500 bottles or whatever, that doing the best they can, and they're just doing it out of a love and their soul. Those are the things that are most exciting versus the big douchey corporate things that, because the big guys are all owned by Suntory and Seagrams and whatever big names out there.
Yeah.
That's what's most exciting. Finding something that's affordable but really special versus spending $1,200 on a bottle, because you're not going to like it. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be that same enjoyment. You know what I mean?
And I feel like you never doing something like that, because we've never spent close to that much, but we've done the big beer releases that are like, stand in line for this bottle that you pay $25 for as 12 ounce. And I don't care what it is, it never lives up to the hype either. And you always feel like, I could have just not done that and been fine. Yeah. But it's like, sometimes you want to be able to say, I did it. I tried the expensive one. But
that's true.
Yeah.
Just to say you've done it. Absolutely. But don't ever buy it for yourself. Go find somebody else to buy it for you.
Yeah, that's smart.
That's the trick.
Jim, get us a sugar daddy. I'll buy us all the beer.
Yeah, fuck that. You're the connoisseur. I'm the Jameson Tullamore dude. I'm the cheap date over here. So I'm like, oh, I like the taste. Oh, was it good? Yeah, I mixed it with a little ginger ale, and then it went down smooth.
Yeah. Now, as someone who is an expert with alcohol, and now that I hear you like bourbons, whiskeys, do you ever give people hell for adding ice to them? And I know some people, because I feel like I've met people who are very divided. Some are like, it releases the flavors, put 1 ice cube or a little bit of water or whatever. I've never added water, but I have added ice. And some people are like, oh, you're not doing it neat. Like, that's ridiculous. And I want to know where you fall on that.
I think you should do whatever the fuck you want.
That's what we like to hear.
I love that.
Ice in it, you put ice in it. I don't care, all right? You're the one that's drinking it, not me. if it's me, usually I'll go through like a phase. I'll phase through it. I'll sip it neat, add a little water, and then if I'm feeling like, okay, maybe that needs an ice, I'll add an ice. But very rarely now do I add an ice because, I don't know, I just don't really feel the need to be cold, because cold does, like, mute the bouquet on the nose and can mute some flavor profiles whenever you're drinking it. So there's that. But if you have the $1,200 one, I would not suggest putting ice on it straight off the bat. I would taste it neat and then kind of go through a transitional process. Then do whatever the fuck you want. But,
yeah.
But who cares, honestly? Like, people, that's also another thing that I like, getting on my soapbox again about alcohol industry, that people are like, you have to do it this way. Like, but why? It's alcohol. It should be fun. I should be able to do whatever I want. If I want to drink it out of a frosty glass, I'm gonna do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
No, for sure, because we started our page in 2013, and that was like at the real start of like the craft beer like explosion kind of deal, when like everyone was starting their little microbrews and starting their websites like us. But there was that phase in time where it was like you had to like IPAs. Every brewery had their signature IPA. You had to enjoy IPAs. It was all about the IPAs, even before anything else. And when you're just coming off like the Buds and Millers of the world, or Lion's Head, which is our like college favorite, you bite into an IPA and you're like, oh, this tastes like a tree's asshole. You're like, what am I doing wrong over here? And I know you hate the IPA, so you can attest to this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's at like, and we see it with like a lot of the big sites. Like Untapped is like the biggest beer site, I guess you could say. But you know all about it. There you go. And yeah, like just the level of douchebaggery that you can see on there. It's just like, why? Like we're all just drinking basically fancy versions of stuff that got our dads drunk. Like it's really not as serious as you guys are making it out to be.
It's not. It doesn't have to be. And that's also what I also hate about, like, limited release stuff, too, because it's just fueling the fire of the douchebaggery that goes on in the business. Because they'll, again, when I worked in retail, it would be, like, anytime, like, I don't know, what is it, the bourbon stout thing that came from...
God damn it.
Drawing a blank.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say, because it's still getting released today.
Yes, and for the life of me, I'm not going to remember. I'll think of it like 2 hours later. Anyways, but something super limited release, people clamor for. They would be waiting at the door before we open. Do you have it yet? Do you have it yet? I'm like, oh my God, we have to have a system or something. And it just turns into a nightmare, because these people, I understand you want to try it and you want to experience it, but don't make my life a living hell, please.
Yeah.
I'm trying the best I can to get you your beer, but...
Listen, 23 lumberjacks with beards down to here. You each get your turn, all right? I'm trying here.
I'm trying, please. Don't
All right.
yell at me.
All right, one's with the tattoos of a slice of pizza over here. The rest of you over here.
Yeah, the beer crowd, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it with it doesn't matter what niche you're into, what type of alcohol, gaming, whatever.
It's across the board, yep.
Yeah, and what's amazing is, as you said, the beer crowd, I think, was able to capitalize, specifically the more hipster IPA crowd, because they made these limited release things. It's literally like a Pokemon. You got to collect them all. You got to be able to say, I tried everything from this brewery that only releases one Tuesday every 3 months, and that turns us off. Like, I'm not down for going and standing in a line waiting for this, because yeah, it's like the beer is good, but so are there other beers that you can get all the time. And it just becomes like, yeah, I'm not trying to compete to drink my beer. That's not the purpose of it. But it is funny, you mentioned, like Jim said, as IPA people think, like, oh, it tastes like a tree's asshole. Like you, I'm sure, when you first started having wines, it was really hard at first to distinguish flavors, whatever. And the biggest advice I can give to people, that I know it sounds counterintuitive, if you keep your beer in a fridge, is letting it warm up. And a lot of beers, especially stouts, like, I can't stress that enough, and a lot of Belgian beers too, like, to get flavors. Because me and Jim, we would each have a beer. I'd say, you take it, let me know your notes, I write it up. I'd send him this whole list of flavors. He's like, all I taste is sugar or something. I'm like, Jim, I'm like, God damn it, I'm telling you, these other things are there.
I'm like, yeah, it's
And
pretty
then-
good.
Yeah, I'm like, did you drink it out of the bottle or did you pour it in a glass? Well, it was just out of the bottle. I was like, all right, pour it in a glass, let it warm up. Like there's a whole process that is underappreciated for beer, the same way as all alcohols. And I'm like you now, where I sit there, I drink a beer, but like I'm noticing a million different notes, and it took trying so many beers. So when people say like, I don't understand when someone says this is bready. What does bready mean? I'm like, you got to try enough to like. I can't describe it any more than that.
Have you ever licked a horse's ass? Then that's bready. Go out and lick a horse's ass. Have fun.
Well, I guess we gotta do this.
No, I totally understand though. Yeah, it takes it. People are like, how do you get all these flavor notes, and how do you taste the raspberries and the cherries or whatever bullshit thing is come up with? And I always just tell them, drink more.
Yeah.
Drink more, but don't drink more just to drink. Drink and think about it.
Right.
Like sit there, look at it, smell it, taste it, do all the steps to appreciate. So don't pound 20 beers, maybe just appreciate a couple. You know what I mean? Like take the time, and then you'll really start to learn and figure out what your palate is, because my palate's going to be different than your palate. And I think that's what people have a really hard time figuring out. Like,
Yep.
if they read the back of a wine label or they're reading a beer label and it says, oh, cherry notes. And you're like, I don't taste cherry. I'm like, that's okay, because you may not taste cherry. You
Yep.
figure out what you taste, though. Go eat a cherry and figure out, is that cherry to you or is it raspberry? You know?
Yeah. No. That makes perfect sense.
And there's also the thing too of like reading the back of it and having a few and being like, oh, this is this experience. Then maybe get like the tonal opposite of it, drink that, and be like, oh, okay, I see where this is coming from now. Shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? Even though I know you said, you might not be a big fan of Untapped, but for someone like, for us trying beers, the only thing
it's a great resource.
it's like been like, I've never, or have I tried this? And what's amazed me is going back to when we first started the site and I got my account to keep track of it. And then having that same beer later and then like, oh, I would actually give this now like a 4 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I gave it a 2 back then? Like how much people's taste changes as it evolves or whatever. It's funny to like kind of like check yourself there too. Because, yeah, you're not going to guaranteedly love the same thing in the future either.
Oh, for sure. And I think Untapped is a great resource for having as a database. I'm more apprehensive to go on there to look on what other people's reviews are.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I am
Yeah.
not a person to be like, oh, this person wrote, oh my God, like, they
Yeah.
don't like it, therefore I'm not going to like it. Like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Hot Boner 73 said it really had some good effervescence to it.
Yeah.
Better listen.
He knows. Oh, he knows.
Yeah, he's an expert, Jim. With a name like that. Now, what I did find though, of all the alcohols of reviews I've seen of people talking about it, it's with wine. There's a unique thing, and you tell me if you find it to be any bullshit. But on top of tasting notes, on top of smell, I'll literally see them be like, this tastes like a berry that matured when it was raining in July of... And I'm like, all right, come on now. Like, I can appreciate people can... I'm like, the fucking season? Really? Like, the notes, like, yeah, there was a light dew, and I get a bit of truffle from this that had dirt. And I'm like, is it really all that? Or at what point is it inflation right there?
It's just fluffy to be fluffy, because wine has that stigma of being, it's so fancy.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's no different tasting than a beer. You're going to get maybe you'll get that it's a ripe raspberry versus a super tart raspberry. Like, there's a difference in flavor profile there, but am I going to say it's a raspberry from Wisconsin versus Washington? No, like, that's just bullshit.
Everyone...
Fluffy to be fluffy.
Yeah, no, because everyone knows those raspberries are different in Wisconsin and Washington. Come on.
Yeah, 100%. God, that's such bullshit.
Yeah.
All right, you know what?
Wine writers.
Speaking of bullshit, what's your theories on food pairings with it? Because there's two schools of thought. Is it bullshit or is there an actual science?
There is an actual science for some profiles, and a lot of it has to go with, like, the acidity in the wine So acidity is something that can be measured and that can be, not necessarily measured, but versus flavor profile. So if I have a high acid wine, maybe I want a super rich food to something to cut that acidity. So those things will pair better because they're opposites, or you can have a high acid wine with like a tomato salad, something that also is high acid. That kind of thing. Or a really high tannic wine, so wine that dries out your mouth a lot, having a big juicy steak with it. Those pairings make sense just because of the molecular structure of the wine.
Yeah.
So I do think there, but whether or not and how sweet the wine is and that kind of stuff, but like having a cherry wine versus like raspberry wine, not great, not having made cherry wine, but flavor profiles, and saying that one goes better than there's a fine line, and people jump that line all the time. So I do think there are good pairings that go with things like lobster and Pinot Noir is probably not your best pairing.
Yeah.
But I've done it and I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you throw some favorites together and you say, fuck it.
Yeah, you say, fuck it. Who cares? Like, that's what it's all about. It's trying and figuring out what you like.
Yeah.
Not what other people tell you. It's what you like.
Yeah. No. And I think that is key. Like, it can't be stressed enough when those things, they are... I don't even know if guide's too heavy of a word. They're not like mandated. Like you can only have white wine with fish. You can only have red wine with red meats or steaks. Like, yeah, drink what you want to eat. And these are just like, hey, these are people that enough people have reviewed it and said this will probably give you a better complementary flavor based on whatever. But yeah, there's a million people out there that'll be like, I never liked that combination. So
yeah, and that's okay. Do you, man. It's okay. Drink your fish with your red wine.
Yeah.
Some white fish go great with red wine.
Yeah.
But some, I probably wouldn't have a huge, big, tannic Sangiovese. But I could.
One of my favorite things is there's a local Cuban place that makes smoked marlin tacos, and they go really, really well with sangrias and the red wines there. I never do white with it, and it tastes damn delicious. So, yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
So let me ask you one thing. I do want to return to the alcohol, but Jim and I did mention before, we love the little symbol right next to your head. And seeing as you did not grow up in Philly, I would love the quick and dirty genesis of becoming a Philly sports fan and feeling that pain while not living in the city.
I don't know if I didn't not feel the pain because I was still a Phillies fan.
Yeah.
My dad is from Delaware County, outside of Philly, and he diehard Philadelphia sports fan. We watched Villanova basketball, Eagles, Flyers, Phillies growing up constantly, and I grew up in Phoenix, and there was no football team, and the Cardinals weren't in Arizona until I think it was the early 90s. I forget the year.
It was like 96, 97, yeah.
Oh, I think it was earlier than that for the
Could
Cardinals.
be, maybe.
But they were, I think, I'd have to look this up, but I think they were part of the NFC East, which makes no bonkers sense.
Yes, they did used to be.
They were part of the NFC East in their first couple years, so we got to watch a lot of Eagles games growing up. It was on TV, so that was exciting. But yeah, my dad is from the Philly area, and I just sort of latched onto it because it's Arizona. There was no sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I'm a total hypocrite because, and there's buddies at the show where, they grew up in an area, but they're, diehard. Say they grew up in Virginia or, D.C., and they're diehard fans of, say, Pittsburgh. And also because we're from Philly, we fucking hate Pittsburgh and their teams. Obviously. So I'm like, you fucking bandwagoning successful city pieces of shit. But, so normally I'm all against the transplant love. But when it comes in my favor, I'm just like, goddamn right you're a Philly fan. This is fucking great. And
now,
plus, there's no pride, there's no bandwagon pride in being a Philly sports fan outside of the city for our 3 championships in 100 years. So
yeah, it really upset me when the Diamondbacks won in 98, or I think it was.
'01.
Early 2000. '01, that was it. In 2001, And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? They've won, and I have yet to see the Phillies win. Like, I may never see the Phillies win. Of course, they did in 2008, but
Yeah. Not only did they win, they won in like the most grandiose fashion, like beating like the best like era of the Yankees that they ever fucking had. Meanwhile, when the Phillies won, it's like, oh, we beat Tampa. Cool.
I know.
Hey,
Not that
a
we
win's
didn't
a
take
win,
it. We
Jim.
obviously took
Shut up.
No, look, we obviously took it, and I don't care that Carlos Ruiz and JC Romero were suspended next season for steroids. I don't care. I take my goddamn win where I can get it.
Now, our buddy we were mentioning who did move out to Seattle, he actually has said that he's been able to find some Philly-themed sports bars. Now, in Arizona, have you been able to find any other like Philly sports fans out there?
The guy I dated in high school was a Philly sports fan. Probably because he was the only other guy who was a Philly sports fan. So I was like, hey, you're fun.
I like you.
But I left Arizona when I was 18 to go to college, and I haven't lived there since. So I unfortunately haven't really hit up the bar scene unless I was like going back for the holidays during Christmas, and you go down to Tempe and hang out with ASU douchebags, but
isn't that still like considered the biggest party school in the country?
It should be.
I mean, I know it was for the longest time. So, yeah.
Speaking of parties, I have a bone to pick with you right now because we you graduated in 08, we went to a 5-year school in 09, so we're basically the same era for college time. How the hell did you go through college and not just be flooded in Fireball the entire time you were there?
Yeah.
Because I heard your latest minisode, and you're like, oh, this is my first time having Fireball. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you couldn't escape it for us.
No. I played Division I softball in college, so I wasn't a huge party animal because I was pretty into not being hungover the next day for 4 hours of practice. Not to say I didn't do it, but there was, I mean, maybe I did. There was a ton of jungle juice going around.
Well, that's a standard.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was Fireball, because when I had the Fireball, I'm like, this is not ringing any bells for me. So Everclear rings the bell.
Yeah, I was gonna say that cinnamon jungle juice you had. You don't remember that?
Yeah,
I mean, the point of jungle juice is to not remember it anyway. So God knows what they threw in there. Because I remember for college for us, by the tail end, it was all about Fireball and Kraken. Those were the two big things. Out in Arizona, or you were probably what, DC by the time you were in college? Or
no, I went to school in Texas and in Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So what were Jesus, all over the place.
Well,
what were the?
Gotta go where the money's at.
Yeah, right. Don't blame me there.
Paying for this scholarship.
Yeah, for real. So what do you call it? For each of those, that's actually good. For the different areas, what were the big go-to drinks down there? Or is it
in Texas? It was jungle juice.
Okay.
In Connecticut, it was beer.
Oh, all right.
Wow. See, I would have thought Texas with their Lone Stars and Shiners, that would have been the thing. But it was jungle juice.
I mean, there was a lot of beer going on, but it was mostly jungle juice, I feel like.
Okay. Nice.
It's kind of funny to think about in the COVID world today, when back in college you would just fill up a cooler, throw a shitload of ice in there, and just pour basically all the bottles and juice that you have and just mix it all together with a broom. And it's okay, everyone can just dunk out of this.
Just put your solo cup in there, dirty hands. You're like, yeah, it's just, the Everclear kills it all.
It's fine. Then you have the one friend of a friend who swigs out of the bottle and then pukes everywhere and ruins the whole batch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, every time.
Yeah.
There's always a Caleb, right, Brian?
Had to just throw up in that bottle. What was it again he threw up in? Was it the Crown Royal?
That was Crown Royal.
Yeah, that guy. We knew. It's funny, when you spot, you're like, this one's going to be an issue after, the first sip. And sure enough, they're the one that has to puke and ruin it. That guy was interesting that night, Jim.
Oh, college.
Yeah.
How I missed things.
I know, right?
Yeah, but the Fireball, I mean, to say that was a go-to from college onward, it would be putting it lightly. I mean, I think the stupidest thing we did in college, though, and I don't know about you, obviously you seem to be way more responsible since you were on a softball team and didn't like to get hungover. See, I made the mistake of, dated a couple different bartenders, and you would be able to pay a very flat fee and then drink all night long. And I would mix and they were usually learning bartenders, so they were just like learning and excited to show me a new drink they can make. I'm like, sure, I'll have this tequila based drink mixed with this whiskey drink, have every combination under the sun. That was bad enough, but our go-to for a while, because our one buddy would be, if you're going to pregame, the whole point is get a little drunker. He used to have us do shots of 151. Ooh. And that was a terrible idea. Yeah, it's what is the worst, like, when you think of like something you take a shot of or used to take a shot of that you don't want to touch anymore? Like, do you have any Rumplements?
Oh, that's a good one for that. Everyone has a Rumplemint story.
That and Goldschlager.
100 proof 100 proof, tastes like black licorice ass. Ugh. God.
Do you also dislike Sambuca as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
hate
don't like
that.
anise flavored liquors very much. There's just something about, I don't like black licorice, so it's kind of hard. Like, even absinthe, which has black licorice notes to it, if I put it in a cocktail, I am like dusting my glass and throwing the rest out because I'm just like, in a hint of it.
Yeah, Sambuca, that stuff was disgusting the very first sip, and it pours like syrup, and I was like, this is disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting.
So sugary. Oh my god. Ugh.
And
So
Brian, somehow Brian would always have a bottle on. You either always had a bottle, or like someone would bring it to a party, or the bottle would just last a year.
Well, see, the problem is Juan, if you remember, one of his exes loved it, so Juan would get the bottles of it, and then they would stay at my house, and I would just always have, just like for some reason, I always had a bottle of 99 bananas for that short period. And that was a big thing. Nobody liked it. For some reason, it was always there, and like these million bottles of stuff. I still, like, from 7 years ago, have, I don't know how many flavored vodkas they're still unopened, because I'm like, I don't drink this shit. And I'm just like,
well, Brian, now you have aged 99 bananas.
Yeah.
Yay.
But yeah, like, it's funny because 151, for obvious reasons, just taking straight shots, that was a bad idea. But I think one of the other bad ones for me was the first rum we ever had was Captain Morgan. And when they came out with the tattoo, the black one, that, like, we would drink like crazy. And there's something about puking up black Captain Morgans, which is like, I never want to relive that again. So if I even smell that, I'm like, get that shit away from me. I'm fine with regular rum, but that, nope. And Jim, for you, it's like everything.
Yeah, I've puked up every goddamn thing. Some things I can go back to, some things I can't.
So, Jim, do you not like liquor at all very much? Or
whoa. Please,
whoa. Jameson
Please,
and Bushmills is okay.
Oh, no. I still go back to most of it, but what do you call it? Like I can still enjoy it all, but like I've always been the puking type. Like, if I don't stick to exactly one type of drink through the entire night, if I mix it all, I'm probably gonna be puking. And then, like, especially back in like the college days, like, I'd smoke cigarettes back then, which just heightens the alcohol. So I'd get blackout, puke the next day or during the night, somehow make an ass of myself, or combine everything. I know. It's neither here nor there, Brian. But yeah, or especially fucking mixing weed with liquor and shit like that, and doing the wrong combination. Just then you just get the spins like a motherfucker, and like you're done by 10 o'clock. So
Yep. Lots of those nights.
Yeah. So I mean, like I think I'm with Bri. Like, tattoo, I can't touch anymore, because when you puke like black rum out of your nose, or like Jaeger shit like that. That was a reaction I was not expecting.
Oh,
Jaeger is another no-go for you?
Just because
I know. Oh, I'm gonna have to do a Jaeger mini soon, because I'm gonna have to. It's Jaeger, and I'm so not looking forward to it.
Jaeger was that drink that we could, like, our buddy's girlfriend was like 2 years older, so she could always get the handles for us, and we would be 17 or whatever at our buddy's apartment, and just bottle after bottle after bottle, because that's all we could get. And just like, I have that mental image burned in my head of his apartment, his kitchen table which would just be covered in Jaeger bottles and pizza boxes stuck to the table from the stickiness of just like everything that just got like spilled out of it. and then all the memories of like puking and then just being like pushed out of the way as someone like pukes after me, and then I'm puking in the bathtub. Yeah, it was.
Oh, Jim, you used to talk about sweet shit, but this one was actually good. Do you remember our buddy Matt loved Drambuie just because it was Scottish?
Yes, he did.
You know what? I got to give him credit. That was actually not. That was okay. I did like that. I haven't had it in years, but I remember I'm like, oh, it's like honey. Like it's fine, but I don't remember what you would ever drink it with other than by itself. But we would try and drink it like shots, and you're like just swallowing a mouthful of honey. Like it's just, yeah,
Sip.
yeah. There was nothing in moderation back in the day for us.
When you're 19 here, hell no.
Yeah,
It's amazing we survived, isn't it? And still drinking alcohol to this day. Like somehow we're still powering through it.
yeah. Well, like I said, the worst was the one bar one of my exes worked at. Their specialty were car bombs. So you start off with 3 of those, and then followed by shots, and then followed by, and you know, a stomach filled with that. It's never a good idea. Like, yeah, the stupid shit you would do, but man, you mentioned Jaeger, and it just clicked in my mind. And since you are a good educator of alcohol, what is Jaeger? Like
Yeah,
I
what
don't.
the fuck
I
is that
actually
shit?
don't even know what it like. What would you even classify that as?
You classify it as more of like a kind of alpine liqueur.
Okay.
Pretty much. Not really a liquor. Because there's liquors and then there's liqueurs.
Yeah.
So liqueurs are more sweeter. They have sweeter profiles to them. I have to remember what the ABV of Jaeger is, but it's... I would just classify it as a liqueur. It's like alpine. I say alpine because it's like piney and has that, like they use a lot of different herbs.
Yeah.
Of course, they're never going to tell you what that combination is.
Yeah.
Like, I think on the bottle it says like 20 something combination of herbs, blah, 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 whatever. And it's, yeah.
Is it meant to be like an aperitif, like just sip it like there, or is it
Yep.
meant to be more like a? Okay, so it is an aperitif. Okay, because that's
Oh God, just sipping Jaeger?
that's
Who
what I
does
was
that?
thinking. Like I actually thought I haven't had Jaeger probably since college, and of course you only have it when it's in someone's freezer. I was like, is that something that's actually supposed to be like served warm, sipped slowly? Because
I still would not have it warm. I would still at least have it refrigerator cold.
yeah,
Just
but that's what I mean. I don't know. Like, it's funny. All those things we just named. I like Rumplemints is another one. Like, I would be like, I can't think of that outside of it's a shot. Like, so once again, you know, I'm used to
I think-
classifying all those.
I think something like that is made to be like a shot, like because there's no way you're just going to be able to sip that if
Yeah.
you're a normal functioning human being.
Right, masochist. Yeah.
But Jaeger, I think, also has sort of a bad rap because it's associated with those college days, and it can be something that you just have as a digestif at the end of the meal, kind of sip, just take a couple sips up, because those like those kind of flavor profiles are actually better for your digestion.
Yeah.
So, I'm using a lot of air quotes, but I mean, I'm not a fan, so I don't care. But yeah,
As far as though, and it's funny because I never appreciated those like digestifs as you called them and aperitifs. I didn't like think valid of them until when my wife and I went over. We stayed in Europe for a month and hit up Ireland, France, Italy, and Spain. And trying all the different things. And the one thing from Italy I'll never forget, we were in Florence, had a steak the size of the table almost. It was amazing. But the guy afterwards brought over grappa. Never had it before. I smelled it. I was like, it smells like goddamn like just straight up fuel. I don't know what this is. He's like, yeah, drink. I drank it. I've never had such a want to throw up right away. I was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. I didn't, but I was just like, and I was trying to be nice. I'm like, oh, thank you. And then my wife was like, I'm not drinking it. So he just slides the next one to me too. I was like,
And you're like, great.
I don't think I should do that. But yeah, surprisingly, an hour later, I was like, my stomach doesn't feel as full. But I will never drink grappa again because I did not like that flavor. I still don't know what it is.
Yeah, grappa is pretty much distilled. It's a distilled fruit, so it's made like vodka.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
But there are a lot of other digestifs and aperitifs and such that, like Amaros, which one from Italy that I really love is called Card Amaro, even though it's not made with cardamom or anything like that. It's made from a plant that's very similar to artichoke that helps with your digestion and such and is really good after dinner. It's lower in alcohol, so some of these are at like 20% versus 40.
Yeah.
So they're like a nice easy sip versus grappa, which is balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Can be up to 100 proof depending, but yeah.
Yeah, the Amaros, as you said, I had those in Italy too, and you were mentioning, and they are, if that was more accepted and you realize, like, I think most Americans just don't think of those things. Like, I've never known people to just sit and after a meal, like, have a little, they'll be like, what am I doing, shots now? Like, what the fuck is this? So, yeah, it is, it really does work if you do it right.
If you do it right, in moderation and slow.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
Which we never learned the right way to do that stuff.
No. Speaking of more drinking.
Yeah, I'm about to get another beer real quick.
Go ahead, go grab it. All right, and we're back with Jim has a new beer. So, Jim, you were just telling us you're drinking a chocolate milk stout.
I am drinking the CocoCal from the Sun River Brewing Company. It is a chocolate milk stout. Comes in at 7% alcohol. Brewed in Sun River Brewing, Sun River, Oregon. So, this is a brand new one for me. Slightly sweet chocolate milk stout with Ghana coca nibs. Contains lactose. Milky.
Jim, how many times have you read ingredients and you're like, I have no idea what any of this is?
See, here's a secret for the people out there listening. I just go words, thing, words, maybe know this.
Yeah.
number next to beer. But no, like, what do you call it? Going back to the milk was a bad choice. It was good. I didn't really get any of the milkshake out of it. It was pretty much just all straight citrus. By the end, like I said, it basically tastes like orange juice. So, hey, it's a good way to get drunk off orange juice.
A lot of them are getting away with calling they're calling them all milkshake just because they add lactose, and they're like, it's a milkshake IPA.
Pretty much,
and
yeah, just to give it that little bit more of the haziness, I guess. And they're like, oh, it's a milkshake IPA.
It's sweeter, but like it gives the wrong impression. People drink it, and their ideas are going to be like, does it taste like a milkshake? Like, why do you call it milkshake? No, it's not like what you're about to drink, which is...
Yeah, I mean, this is basically like a fancy beer mosa, or not as fancy, that kind of deal. Whereas this, like, the first couple sips, I'm already getting straight chocolate, so...
Yeah.
Straight chocolate, straight stout. So far, this is living up to the advertisement. And it is dark as night.
Nice.
That looks thick.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly not as thick as you would think. Like, there's no head to it, there's, like, minimal lacing, but... It's actually really smooth. Like, it doesn't give, like, an overpowering mouthfeel. It's, like, a nice mid kind of range.
And, Jim, is that the good old Killian's glass I see?
Oh, why, yes, it is. Brian, I broke my tulip glass.
Yeah. And, Michelle, your beer, I know we were talking off air a little bit, but it's
all right.
That is that as strong of an endorsement as we're gonna get from beer for you?
Well, no, I'd love some. Like, there's this brewery in Virginia that does a really good job with gozes called Three Notch. I think they're more south of here near Charlottesville. They do a bunch of really good gozes that I really love. This one's just okay. It just feels very one note and very simple.
Yeah.
Not blowing my hair back.
No, I hear you. Now listen, before we move on, we do have some more specific stuff, but we got to ask, are you a gamer at all?
Yes.
So have you been able to be playing anything recently?
Yes.
What you been playing? Now I'm very intrigued.
I am more of an RPG gamer. I've recently been playing Alright, so I'm sort of playing two games at the same time right now because Stardew Valley just got an update and I can't tear away from it for the life of me because I don't know, something about these like life sims and just farming shit and cooking. I'm just like, God, why can't I stop? But
I love chores. I love chores so much.
I love chores. I don't know why. So good. But the other game I'm playing is Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which is both of you went like, what? It was published by Marvelous and produced by Edelweiss. And it's a little action RPG with farming elements and the Stardew Valley.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. She's like, if I'm not tilling, I'm pissed off.
I need my relaxation chores.
Yeah.
But you grow rice in order to increase your stats. And it's more of an action RPG versus like turn-based RPG, which I'm a fan of both. So no hate.
So wait, is the action element like shovel faster? Like what? Like what's?
No, you have to go and hunt. You're stuck on this island because you're a god, and you got like exiled to this island with these group of people you don't want to be with, and so you have to clear out all the monsters. So you go to places and go fight monsters.
Okay.
And the people are helping you grow rice because rice makes you stronger because you're a god of rice and stuff.
So what you're telling us is your ideal game is an RPG where you're growing wine grapes and you're producing your wine with some action elements.
Well, no, my ideal game is like Final Fantasy. So
okay. That's close enough. What are you talking about?
I mean, fine. I love RPGs though, or like turn-based strategies and such like that. So that's sort of my niche. I stick to it.
Okay. That is polar opposite of Jim.
Yeah,
So,
I'm like I had a little phase with RPGs, but it's just a thing I could never. I've tried to hit all the big ones like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI and stuff like that, and I'd get a couple hours in, and I would just like taper off and be like, yeah, I just need more. It's a genre I've tried.
Need more.
Yeah. I need stuff to happen. Like I can sit there and hit A and win. I mean, that's fun. It sounds great to me. So
isn't that what you're doing with any action or action shooter? You're just pushing A.
I don't like to read. There. Fine.
Yeah, it's well established, Michelle. Jim is if he was equivalent to a beer, he is the Miller Lite of games. He likes his very base one note. He doesn't want to have anything deep. He doesn't want to have he hates story. If you dive too much into a character, he shuts down. So he just wants it to be, ooh, flashy lights.
Jiggle some keys in front of me. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I had my fate. Like I played, I like the Shadowrun games. We played all of them. I liked Phantasy Star Online. I liked Phantasy Star Universe, and I like the Bethesda games. It's a combination of like not giving myself the time to delve into like a 40-hour game anymore, and yeah, a lot of the Japanese ones I just couldn't do. Like
they're hard.
A bit I had for a while was just like to tell people that they only liked Final Fantasy VI because they cried at the opera scene when they were 7. I was like, gosh, shut up, the game's not as good as you say.
Well, I didn't cry, but I still know the song probably.
It's my ringtone. Shut up.
Chocobo Que is my ringtone.
I also have like a deep-seated like hatred. I've talked about it before. Not like a hatred, but like a grudge. Because I would go over my best friend's house like growing up, and like this was like right after Final Fantasy VII came in, and he was that like typical like Western guy who went full bore into RPGs after that game. So anytime I'd go over and want to hang out, I'm just sitting there watching him scroll through menus the whole goddamn time. And I'm like, I'm going to go play with your Game Gear for a while. He's like, that's cool. And I'm like, I'm going to, like 4 hours later, I'm like, I'm going to go now.
Jim, I hate the fact you said he's that typical Western guy. Like, who the fuck else you going to meet in Northeast Philly other than Western guy? Like, what,
Right, sir.
What the
Wait,
fuck?
Sir.
Western guy? Really?
Look, we're all Westerners, all right?
Like,
So,
God.
but
I know, but
you know what I'm saying.
That's just more sign. You need to stop being on Twitter so much. So you're talking like So
what about
Jim,
games like Zelda or something like that, like a more action-based RPG? Would you be more of a fan of that, Jim?
Probably. I need to I have Secret of Mana, and I need one of these days to sit down and play it because I know it's like real-time action RPG, or yeah, I've played some Zeldas and I've liked them. Like I've played 1 and 2. Like, Ocarina was big for me growing up. Because, like, I was an N64 kid. I think being an N64 kid, like, I was a Genesis N64 kid. So, like, that's the opposite of growing up an RPG kid. That kind of deal. So, like, that wasn't, like, my environment, basically. So, I mean, what, I had Quest 64? Oh, yeah, that was going to convert me. So, yeah, and so, but I did love Ocarina and Majora's Mask and shit like that. So I like the Zeldas. I haven't really spent a ton of time with one in a while. I put like 10 hours into Breath of the Wild and just like fucked around. I barely even touched, I think I did like one of the Sacred Beasts and that was it. And then I like moved on to other stuff. So, I don't know, like, to steal your line, it's a fine line for me. I need a certain level of like story and engagement and just like overall action.
Yeah. So, Jim, then what is it you have been playing? Because we know it's not RPGs.
See, I also like weird shit, so...
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, well, what have you been playing?
Actually, the biggest things I've been playing lately have been a couple of Master System games and the Aless collection on the Switch. I knew Brian was going to hate me for this.
Master System, Jim?
Yeah, I like the Master System.
Okay.
So, what do you call it? Master System is one of those, like, few systems left that, like, I need more to collect for. But, like, if you just, like, randomly pop in somewhere, you can get a game that's, like, pretty good still for under $10. So, like, I was playing Global Defense and Quartet on that. And Quartet's, like, a fun action platformer. Global Defense is, like, it's kind of like a horizontal shooter with, like, a really weird control scheme to it because it's only 2 buttons and it was, like, twin stick in arcade. So, basically, that one's, like, you're trying to prevent, like, nuclear war. But, like, it's, like, based off of, like... Did you ever hear Star Wars from the 80s? Not the movie, but, like...
I was going to say, what the fuck?
As it was coming out, I was like, this is a stupid question. But, like, Reagan's plan for, like, his Star Wars program, which was supposed to shoot nukes out of space with satellites... No. I know too much random stupid shit that no one cares about. So that was a program that he had. So it was a game, like, kind of based around that. And then the Aless
like
collection...
missile defense?
Pick that, but, like, make it a horizontal shooter where you're controlling a satellite shooting down nukes.
So it sounds terrible.
It's fun. It's weird. It's fun. It's different. And then the Aless collection's, like... it's a collection of, like, a bunch of old vertical shooters from... couple, like, it's a bunch of Game Gear and Master System games, and then they made a brand new game based on, like, Game Gear hardware, basically. So, I know.
So as you see, Michelle, he needs much more than RPGs, because they're too simple.
Just let me shoot you.
Too simple. Yes.
You need goddamn fast twitch reflexes. You can die in any second.
Oh, Jim.
Leave me alone.
Jim. Yeah, I've been just diving hard into Assassin's Creed Valhalla and been... like, I got that for Christmas. It's one of those ones now. I'm at the point where, like any game, and that's more almost action RPG-ish at this point as opposed to the original Assassin's Creed, where I've spent so much time doing just side things. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta go back and play through the story a little bit. So I'm many hours in. I don't know how many, but yeah, that's a huge game. So it's been really, really fun. Jim, I know there's no chance in hell you're ever going to play it. Too much story, but...
I like me some open world games, but again, it's a lot of investment. I got too much of a backlog to get through. Gotta keep adding to
Yeah,
it. Shut up.
You gotta spend your time
Shut
with... You gotta go out and buy some more Master System games.
Goddamn right I do. I'm a historian, damn it. That's what I'm going to say.
You're something, all right.
I'm a lot of things. But what I also am, Brian, is a shill. And what I shill for is patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, where for as little as $2 a month, you can ask a question that we will answer on each and every single one of these Power Hour podcasts. So, Michelle, we'd love for you to play along with our Patreon questions.
Yeah.
First up, from Game Whisperer Dean, how is Dry January going? I swear to God we didn't plan this.
Wow.
I swear to God. At first I was like, what the fuck is Dry January? Then I had to look it up. So for me and Michelle, it's going very well.
Great.
It's literally no different. Even though I drank, this is going to sound weird. Even though I drank a lot, I didn't drink to get drunk. And I didn't drink enough where, like, it was bothering me at all. So it wasn't... It's just like, I just get bored when I'm like, oh man, I'm having this food and I really wish I could have this with it. Or, oh, I'm watching something and I want to have a beer or bourbon or whatever. So it's It's going to make me really appreciate what I'm going to drink in February. That's all I can say.
There you go. Next up from Burn Retinas. Do you have a favorite shovelware game?
What the fuck is shovelware?
Shovelware is like, imagine like 90% of the Wii console, where it's like a garbage game that they just put on there for cheap.
Does Rocket League count?
No, you son of a bitch.
Garbage game for the Wii?
Like, imagine, like, yeah, it's like almost like a budget or like a game that you know that they just put out there just to like put something on there to try and get as much money as they could for minimal effort. That's kind of like what
Wii
shovelware
Sports.
is. What?
Wii Sports.
No, you son of a bitch. It's the best packing game ever. You motherfucker.
Hey, whether it was, it just was on there.
It was a tech demo. It was fun for the whole family. Grandmoms loved it. How dare you, sir?
But that's what I mean. Am I wrong? Is that like
It is not shovelware.
It's not a deep game. It's just tech demo.
Yeah, it's not deep, but it's not cheap. It's actually well made. Oh, you piece of shit.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't spend my time with that system as much as you did, Jim. So you'd have to be the one to answer more for us.
I'm actually struggling here because a lot of...
Just pick any random game in your collection, because most of it's going to be in that category.
He's saying all of his Wii collections crap.
I think if the camera zoomed in, I would the prices.
That's actually
that,
this
like,
whole section right here.
The whole $1 he spent at Goodwill for them would speak volumes about what he has there.
There are a lot of Goodwill games over here.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hey,
All about
no.
them cheap auction ones. Oh my god.
Dude,
But the Wii ones, are there for a very. I mean, they came out the week after they were released, so.
I'll go with fucking M&M Kart Racer just for how goofy it is. And I'm a sucker for any kind of kart racer. It's not exactly a good one, but hey, you're the M&Ms and you're shooting shit at each other. So there you go.
Jim, were you the peanut one?
I'm always the peanut one.
Of course. Michelle, do you have any games of that would?
Is it an RPG? I don't know if I played it.
She's like, sir, I don't play shit.
Yeah.
If
She's
it's
like,
not
what is the
40
story?
hours long.
Yeah.
It's not my criteria. No, I have no idea. I didn't. God, yeah, me and my sister, we both played a lot of RPGs, and I swear that's all we had growing up. I don't remember anything outside of that. We're the worst. We're the worst.
No,
No.
Hey, RPGs are, like you said, I grew up with an appreciation for them. Not as hardcore, I think, as you and your sister, but I am now growing into and really what turned me the most was Bethesda. Once I was like, oh, there's games like this, then I just started diving deep. My problem is with them, I get so invested into the little world and I want to do everything in the game that I over-invest time into the game. So it's like, yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I'm sure there's some shit RPG out there. I'm sure I can find one. But moving on from G to the next level. Hey guys, I finally picked up a copy of Die Hard Arcade for the Saturn, and I'm pumped. My question is, what are your favorite licensed retro games?
Licensed retro.
Well, I'm going to go with the easy out since he said Die Hard. Die Hard Trilogy for PlayStation 1. I love that game. I actually got it 2 Christmases ago. I used to always have it, and it was really fun. So I'm copping out with the easy answer.
There you go. I'll probably go... shit. I'm really torn. It's either Batman and Robin on the Genesis or X-Men. Because Batman, the animated series, and X-Men were like my life growing up as a kid. Like those Saturday morning cartoons were just fucking everything, so... Batman's the better game, but I might go X-Men just because I played the ever-living shit out of that.
Okay. How about you, Michelle?
I have 2 answers. Good game, Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. This is great, beautiful, wonderful game. Bad
It's better
game.
than Genesis.
You
too.
mother... I was waiting for it.
I grew up with the Super Nintendo, so I'm gonna go all Super Nintendo. Bad game, but I grew up with, but I absolutely loved because it brings so much nostalgia in me. But it's a horrible game, horrible. American Gladiators on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
We reviewed the
played
Genesis
it.
the NES version. We did that
Yeah.
one.
It's awful.
They're all the same. And they're all bad.
But
I
I could
love
see
it.
where you had fun with it. Were you playing with your sister, which is what adds the immense element of fun?
Yeah, it was always a 2-player, me or the
Yep.
neighborhood kids or my sister, always playing with it.
Yep.
And then you'd get to the stupid ball shoot one, and you get like, how come I can't freaking kneel?
Now, for my friends and I, that was always like, none of us owned it, but someone always rented it. Like, there was like a year and a half straight where like someone we know always had it rented, but no one ever went out and was like, oh, I'm going to put the investment into actually owning this game. Was that for you, or did you actually have it on your shelf at your house?
No, we had it.
Ah, next level.
Yeah.
See, I don't care what anyone says. A bad game can be redeemable if like you both understand when you're playing a multiplayer game and it's broken and you just have the goofy fun. Jim and I, the amount of stupid, terrible fighting games and sports games we played that we know would suck so bad if it was by ourselves, but you get the fun out of like how ridiculous. You're like, this is not working at all, and especially when you're drunk when you're doing it, helps a lot.
Now, best multiplayer game that's also licensed, Goof Troop.
Oh, that is a good one.
Oh yeah,
That's a really good one. And that's one that's like finally like getting its due like these days. Like that's like on like every hidden gen like Super NES list, and it's just like, oh, Goof Troop out of fucking nowhere.
I got that game memorized.
good old Goof Troop.
Good one.
Good call. And that was G, right, Jim?
Yeah, that was from G.
Thank you, bud. That was a good question.
Yep. And last up from Gamer Astro, when was the last time you got blackout drunk? How did you survive that? Michelle just,
Woo!
she hopped out of her chair.
Blackout drunk. Well, Jim, that was probably the weekend for you.
No, no, no. I haven't been blackout all fucking lockdown since that shit started. But
Sure about that?
mostly sure.
There's been a couple of these weekends you're like, man, I was really fucked up. I was puking out of it. Like,
I'm old. I'm
sure?
a bitch. Like, what do you want me to say?
Like one of the times Matty K was over, you weren't doing your Tully shots and you didn't get a little blackout.
Shit. I mean, I'm sure I've had a blackout recently.
I mean, I've had pictures of you passed out. What look apparently from Sandy that looked like you were pretty blacked out, Jim.
I know. She loves to sell me down the river and send it to her whole goddamn phone. My wife's good about that. She's like, this asshole.
Well, Jim, while you think, how about
I'm
you,
thinking.
Michelle?
Okay, so mine's probably a couple of months ago. And I'm going to plug the Polykill Discord in here.
Ooh,
when I first
all right.
joined the Polykill Discord, we have like these nights where we come hang out and they record one of their podcasts, the Off Kilter. And I had one too many. Being on a video chat with a lot of people you don't know. That was fun. I started like, showing off. Like as I told you, I played softball in college. So I have a trophy collection.
All right. Had to show it off.
Because my dad was like, get this shit out of my house. So that's really why I have it, because he was tired of having it. And so I woke up the next day and I go, oh my God, what happened? Apparently showed off my trophy collection.
You know what? I think you are going to have to come in for one of the times we do an actual power hour. And
We need to have her back on.
You can do it with wine if you want. You can do it with
That's
whatever.
worse, because the
I
sugar
know.
in it's so bad.
That's not our problem. That's your problem. to
Yeah.
figure out.
Oh, is it?
Jim, actually, you know what? She brought up a good point. I think the last time I was really drunk where I was like, oh, and you probably felt the same, was when did we have Console Wars on and we were doing the shots?
Oh God, no! That was when we were on there. Or wait, when they were on our
What?
show? That was a couple months ago.
Yeah, that was probably the last time I was really, like, the next day I was like, oh. Like, because our buddies from Console War, especially Dan, like, every time we get with those guys, we get so drunk, but we did power hours together, and the one time I'll never forget, we pre-gamed with about 6 or 7 beers each before we started the power hour, because we were, like, getting warmed up for the camera, and it was quite an event. But I guess, Jim, your actual best blackout still has to be from too many games.
No, that's actually not my best blackout. All right, so I do remember my last blackout, and actually it was the stream we did with Console Wars on their channel, because we did an actual power hour, and then we stayed up drinking for like 3 hours afterwards with them, and that was when I actually got to work from home from from lockdown and shit like that. So I was like, fuck it, ain't gotta worry about shit tomorrow. Just gotta open up a laptop. So, yeah, that was pretty much blackout. Or, like, the first time we did a Zoom call with all the friends when, like, lockdown first started in, like, March or April.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Like, that was, like, the first one. And that was one of those ones where, like, half of the wives hated their husbands after. Because we all just made an ass out of ourselves. Like, our one, like, the one told him to go to bed, so he stayed up for another 3 hours just drinking an entire bottle. And then I think me and my buddy kept showing our ass on camera and crap like that. So, which is always a pretty sight. But to go back to, for Brian's story, we've already told it, but Too Many Games 2019, we roomed with Dan from Console Wars, and before we went down to the floor of the con, we decided to play Fuck the Dealer. And as we're playing that, I magically hit the perfect statistical anomaly where I lost. Well, Brian fucked me every time as the dealer. Like, he just kept guessing right. Card was high, he guessed high. Card was low, he guessed low. So within an hour, I'm like a 6-pack in while they're all like sipping on maybe one beer. And then we get down to the con and we're drinking the whole time. And then we're like, oh, we're going to go to the after party. I'm like, oh, fucking great. This is where we can go mingle with the bigger names and shit like that. I get the idea. I'm going to go pee in this bush. So
Can we be very, very clear here? So we were at, anytime you're near, I don't care where it is. It's not an industrial complex, but it's basically, you have major hotel here, call it a Hilton here. There's just, all there is a sidewalk straight to another big hotel. That's the only connection.
I was at Too Many Games in 2019.
Okay, so
shit.
then, yeah. And basically, we left the one hotel. All we had to do was walk down the path, as he said, as Jim is known to do. He wanders. That's why I need a leash. Because all of a sudden,
true.
I'm like, oh, okay. He's just going to go pee in that bush. Like, that's right there. And we get to the next hotel. I turn around. Jim's not there. That's weird. And I don't know if you actually texted me or not. But I was just like,
I texted. It wasn't legible.
You did. It was like something like, I've got pee. I'll meet you there. I was like, okay, he's really drunk.
We're talking maybe like a football field, like length, if that. I got lost, went back to the hotel, and as Brian's coming up to the room after, like Dan was smashed too. He was like passed out on a chair, like outside of the party that we're all at. He's like, God damn it, I guarantee when we walk in, Jim's going to be on the toilet when we find him. And as he come into the room, I'm just sitting there just like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? And they're like,
Jim has a means of doing that. So.
But yes, my overall worst blackout, though, had to be, now, Michelle, being the Philly fan you are, Wing Ball.
Wing Ball?
Oh, you don't know about Wing Ball? Okay. So, our One Sports Radio channel, for our drought of Super Bowls, which was forever, they would have this event called the Wing Ball, where they would have competitive eaters come in and have this big event where it's a big wing eating contest. It's basically an event for fucking South Philly people to go to the sports center and get drunk. So, my one guy was in a
I'm
band.
so shocked you don't know about this, Michelle.
I thought her being a sports fan.
To Philly sports talk
Yeah,
because
stop
now I can hear her bitch and moan all the time.
Yeah, Jim, and stop saying Philly sports. Like, this is not a sports thing.
It is a sports thing, goddammit.
The
It's from the
Wing
Philly
Bowl
Sports
is
Channel.
not a goddamn sport.
Yes, it is. It's from the sports channel. They put it on. They organized it.
Jim.
So anyway, I was in a band at the time, so I was already like we were practicing and like I was up drinking, and then like 2 a.m. I was already falling asleep in like my chair, and my singer at the time was like from an old band was like, "Hey, I got tickets to Wing Bowl. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm kind of drunk and sleepy already." And he was like, "Dude, free Wing Bowl tickets." I'm like, "All right." So, So I had my dad's station wagon at the time, and I drove from New Jersey completely hammered down to South Philly, which is very responsible. And we get there, and we started playing, like beer pong in the parking lot at like 5 a.m. So I'm on like 2 hours of sleep and still just drinking for like about 12 hours straight. And we get in there, and like the event's about to start, and I'm like, I'm going to go pee real fast. Classic line. Next thing I know, I'm waking up a good 8 hours later as people are all leaving the event. And I realized that I had been passed out on the floor of a public sports stadium toilet for a good, 8 hours. And then I get out to the parking lot, and someone kicked off my parents' rearview mirror on their car. And half my face was covered in polka dots from marker. So I was like, oh, okay, this is happening.
You hope that was marker.
So I hope, all right. And I was still living with my parents at the time, of course. So that's one where you just walk through the door and you're just like, I'm going to sleep. And it's that level of so mad they look at you the next day and just go, I don't ever want to see you look like that again. And I was like, I don't want to feel like that again.
Oh my god, that's bad.
And somehow I still had my cell phone
Yes.
and my wallet and everything. Like, no one robbed me. Like, I wasn't
Jim.
I assumed someone would have peed
who's
on me or
gonna
something.
look at you while you're on the floor and be like, well, that guy's got the money I need.
Oh, yeah, when
No
you dress
one's-
like a homeless person, it doesn't matter. So it's all a tactical advantage over here. But yeah, that was the worst drunk blackout I've ever had in my life. By far.
I guess you win.
Top that, fuckers.
You win. No
Yeah.
competition.
Yep.
No competition.
You won that one, Jim.
So yeah, thank you, Asheville. Great question. And that rounds up our Patreon questions for this week.
Oh, damn it, Jim.
Life is pain.
All right, so you did have two little articles here, and I am curious, Michelle, what your take is on this. So there was a study done, and the link below is from...
Psychologicalscience.org. So you
Yeah.
know it's right.
So there were some studies done, but basically the conclusion for these meta studies was that violent games are not linked to aggression. And that especially during COVID, I think most gamers are like, yeah, no shit. But that they actually are good stress relievers. And they don't incite aggression. They can actually help manage it. Not a shocker, but have you ever been able to... Now, I know you do RPGs, so I don't think farming helps get out aggression necessarily. You're
I
like
still
these...
played Mortal Kombat and know what that is. It's not like I'm oblivious to the world outside of RPGs.
I'm an angry elf. I know rage.
I remember when Mortal Kombat came out and how much of a big deal that was. And oh my god, people are freaking out because, oh my god, it's, you're killing people. And you know what? Well, most of us all grew up fine, so...
Yeah. Did you ever know... The only thing it's interesting, I don't know how much I agree. I've never been like angry and like, man, let me get my anger out in this game.
No,
Like
I've
that,
never-
because that to me seems... That's almost where I feel like it would be bad. If you're like, I just need to kill something right now. Let me go do that on my video game. Like, I don't know. I can be like, I need to chill out and I'm playing a game, but the purpose isn't to like enact virtual violence to make myself feel better about it. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I guess the same for me. Although I would get upset and just want to go grind and level up. So that's basically killing things, right?
yeah.
Let's go kill funny, fuzzy little rabbits in Final Fantasy and grind your levels. So I guess the same kind of concept, but it just wasn't as bloody. I think that's what scared people is the blood and the gore of it. But
Sure.
I didn't grow up in a house where it was restricted like that. Like my dad took me to go see Predator when I was like 2. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Good man.
Yeah, some games, I think the argument, other than just seeing violent images, I'll never forget, I must have only been in like 8th grade or a freshman in high school, but do you guys remember that game Manhunt?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember I got that. I loved it, and that is still one of the most banned and brutal games, because, like, you're, like, suffocating people with a garbage bag and stabbing them with glass in the back, and it's like, even though they're bad people, you're doing it in the most brutal ways. And I remember, like, leaving the game and, like, the instructions in the bathroom, because that was my reading material at the time. And I remember my mom found it, and she's like, I'm very disturbed that, what is this? Like, just what the hell? Like, I was like, it's just a game. But
It's porn.
that game was basically, like, it gave people a lot of like, well, give people the wrong ideas because kids are now going to be like, oh, I'll put a bag over their head and play.
That makes it okay.
Yeah, but I'm also like, that game is meant for 17 and older. Like, so there is a level of like, okay, should you let your 5-year-old play it? No. But, like, damn it, Jim.
Jim is like, well...
Gotta learn sometime. Look, it was banned in Australia, so, yeah, you know.
Jim, for some reason, I can see you as a kid getting all your anger. You're like, die, Wookiees.
I grew up in the era where, like, Terminator had, like, kids' line toys, and so did RoboCop and shit like that, all right? Like, we were a different breed in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. But I like that the study came out. But once again, it's like, no shit. Any gamer's going to tell you that. Like, yeah, a video game doesn't make you violent.
But especially if you had, like, you know, an era where you can, like, we talked about it before, how the prices for games exploded and people rediscovering their childhood. You're locked in. You have nothing to do. Like, the game industry and the retro gaming, everything, like, gaming just exploded even more than it already did. So if you needed a microcosm of, will gaming lead to more violence in general, it would have been during this time. And nothing linked at this time is, you know, back to games.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other shit to be angry about. It isn't fucking games.
That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to see that they're, like, in their articles saying how they're like, they kind of just, like, threw shade at the old articles saying that it went back to that. They're like, well, if you actually do, like, good testing and research behind it and, like, the real metrics for these kind of things, you see there isn't a correlation. It's like, there you go.
All right. Well, and then the last gaming article we have before some of our reoccurring bits. So we got, and this one was in the news, and this particular is, of course, from Kotaku, but
it was all over.
Everyone saw it, that Microsoft at some point did try to acquire Nintendo in 2000. I like, number one, I like how it's like everyone like is like making a joke of it, but like, could you imagine the alternate reality of if that did occur? Like, people are like making a joke of it, but at the time, Nintendo, like, not, obviously they were always Nintendo, but you're coming up on where they would have kind of the first console for them that would be not the complete success that all their previous ones were. So it wasn't outside the realm of could it have happened, and especially considering the moves Microsoft is making and who they're buying up and who they're partnering with now. Hey, it's Jim and you and I talked about many times. If they didn't have the success of the Switch, if they had another goddamn Wii U, like what could have happened there? I mean, that thing was such a redhead stepchild of a concept that.
Well, good thing they had the 3DS and Amiibo at the same time to still make all the money in the world, but...
Seriously, Amiibos were, like, insane.
Oh, yeah, and like, they're still around, and, like, the Amiibo freaks are still buying them up. I'm like, you guys do realize all these years later that they're useless, right? It's like, little statue toy. Can't even do
Jim,
shit
you
with
have
it.
a whole shelf of useless to your right.
20 years from now, it may be worth money, though.
You leave this alone, you son of a bitch.
That's Jim's 401k behind him.
This is my kid's college right here. They'll all never sell. But no, I mean, like, they came in with, like, a good argument to Nintendo, too. They were kind of just like, hey, you suck at hardware, but you're good at making games. We can make the hardware for you. Let's team up. And according to them, they got laughed out of the room, which I 100% believe.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
It's Nintendo. They have this, like, aura about them. They're like, we're Nintendo. Even at the time. I mean, what was it? 2000, so... Oh, my God. When did the Wii come out?
2005.
Oh, it was 05?
When was... But GameCube was what, 01?
01, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I meant, like, when I said, like, yeah, GameCube was that first big decline for them as far as from consoles. Because they're coming off hit after hit.
Even the N64 was kind of a disappointment, though.
But that was also the era when they had the Game Boy Colors in advance, so those things were booming.
They never didn't make their money. Let's not go crazy here.
But that's what I mean. So it's like, honestly, that it would be very interesting because what people love more than anything is the Nintendo games. We still complain to this day. Their handhelds are great, and the Switch is good. Peripherals are fun and goofy, and a lot of them are failures, but the Wii was a good tech demo, and every grandmom could bowl, so everyone loved it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just like, yeah, man, one day, like, you're tired of Nintendo's bullshit, and especially how they're acting these days.
No,
Would have been interesting.
It's not going to happen. As long as they have Mario and Zelda, they're not going anywhere.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. But
But
we had
it
to
is that
cover
funny what could have been.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right, Master Chief could have been Smash.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much, Jim.
And all their other characters, like Blinks and Master
Damn
Chief.
it.
Steve.
And Gears, Jim, Gears of War.
Oh, yeah, Gears of War guy. He's like, Master
Forza.
Chief without a helmet.
There could have been a car in there, Jim.
Hey, it worked for Sega. They put the Daytona car in Fighting Vipers.
Yeah, where's Fighting Vipers now, Jim?
What? It was on its side. One thing. Look, don't you details me over here. All right?
So, Michelle, we have two very special topics that we always reoccur, and these are geared towards you specifically.
Oh boy. Let me fix my mic. Hold on. All right.
And I'm very, very curious to get your take on these.
We like
But,
to put the guests on the hot seat.
So one of our recurring bits, which is better, name speaks for itself, got to two things. It can be complete personal preference, or you can take it whichever way you want. You can add historical impact or whatever. But the question is for you, which is better, wine or whiskey?
Wine.
Damn it.
Way
Wanted
too
that to be hard.
fast. So what is the...
Okay, which is better,
lot-
wine or RPGs? There we go. Sold yourself out.
Damn it.
I'm changing that in the description. No one has to know the first one happened.
Wine or whiskey? Wine, because wine I think is my first love of alcohol. Really, it's sort of the gateway drug into whiskey was wine, so it has a special place in my heart. I've had so many great wines and I've traveled the world for it that it's just, I love it. I love it. I don't drink enough of it now because I can't bring myself to open a bottle if it's just me having it, me and my spouse. Like, we'll
Stop
have to
being
finish it.
responsible.
I know, it sucks getting old. But, like, I'll drink whiskey more now because I can just pour a little glass and just have a little bit. You know, it's good. But wine is always going to have a special place in my heart. Wine versus RPGs, that's a tough one. Because...
That's what I meant at first.
RPGs, especially, like, my Final Fantasies and my Secret of Manas and my Zeldas and all that crap that I played, you know, Soul Blazer, one of my all-time greatest action RPGs ever. Fuck.
Ooh, yeah, one can no longer exist for you.
I would have to pick RPGs.
Ooh, that's
all right.
huge. I like that. That's a great...
Yeah.
I like
can't
the
live without
unexpectedness.
Soul Blazer. I have to have Soul Blazer.
I mean, yeah.
And as you peer over, you're like, man, I could really go for some Pinot Noir. Oh, I can't have it right now.
Can't have champagne ever? Oh my god! Oh, fuck.
Now, I just said wine. Now.
It's all right. You can still have beer.
Oh, see.
Hey.
All right, and hang up. And...
So it's funny, when I saw Jim put this up there, I was like, well, obviously there's a lot more varieties of wine. There's a lot more history to wine in general. The only, and I always do this with Jim, so I guess I have to with you. I do devil's advocate on purpose of the opposite. The only thing I'll say is, how do I say this? There's something traditionally cool and more relaxed about whiskey. Like, I feel like wine, you can be relaxed and you can be whatever, but like, you never feel cool just sitting there around a campfire with a glass of wine like you do a whiskey. Or you know,
Just not me.
and you've been to Ireland, and there's never going to be a better feeling, at least is what I had when I was sitting on the cliffs of Moher with whiskey. There was no wine that would have done that scenic view a better justice. So if you're in Ireland, especially, whiskey's always going to win over wine.
Challenge accepted. You said you and your wife are doing this wine journey right now, learning
Yep.
about different varietals. Mm-hmm. Challenge accepted.
All right. Also, whiskey is unfortunately very geographically. I mean, there is obviously other whiskey, but really it comes down to the UK, Ireland, America with bourbons, and then Japan has theirs. And there are other whiskeys, but let's be honest, that's really where it stops. Wine is everywhere.
But
Ooh, you're gonna get schooled. Good.
wine is everywhere. But can you get a Pinot Noir as delicate and lovely outside of Burgundy?
Yeah,
Can
of
you
course.
Can you get actual champagne outside of Champagne?
Of course you can.
There's
I just bought some last week.
Really? You can make it in the same method, but there's something in the soils, the terroir, the aspect of the hills, the weather, the history that goes behind it of these fucking monks from 800 years ago that just sat there and drank and wrote shit down so they knew exactly what plot of land go well with this particular grape varietal, and that's going to create the perfect bottle of wine. And finding that perfect bottle of wine is like having that excellent whiskey from Japan or Ireland or wherever it is that you enjoy. It's that same experience with that same history and that same nuanced and particular profiles that make you excited. So, challenge accepted.
I'll still accept it. And I'll also double down. Whiskey sets an entire mood for a night the way wine never can. If you ever say, hey, we're drinking whiskey tonight, there's a mentality that is shifting that you can't have as epic as a night with just what, like,
I should have gotten snacks.
Oh, what did you guys have? Oh, we had this beautiful Burgundy. No, it's, hey, we had this bottle of whiskey, and then the night is set. And I will remind you, I have to do devil's advocate here, so I'm really enjoying seeing these reactions.
I'm gonna go get some popcorn real quick.
Why don't you get some whiskey, because wine goes terrible with popcorn.
It's a good point.
If we ever get beyond these COVID days, COVID days or whenever, and we have another too many games or something,
Yep.
and we all come and meet, hang out, or whatever, bitch, I'm gonna throw down, all right? You get ready, because we're about to throw down some wine. And be like, you tell me this is not something that you can have an experience equal to a whiskey. I'm not saying that it's gonna be like, as expensive or whatever, but I want that experience. I want you to have that sort of experience the same with wine as you do with whiskey, because you can still have it. You just need to find it. It's all about just drinking it more.
I accept said challenge.
Oh, Jesus.
Look, Brian, she said herself earlier. She's like, people saying strawberries are different from somewhere. That's all bullshit. Grapes are grapes. Come on, she can say whatever she wants.
No.
Oh, the soil
That's
with the
your
grapes
personal
makes all the
nuances.
boo.
You can have a great bottle of wine. I'm saying it doesn't have to be expensive. You can have a great bottle of wine at $50, which I've got a ton of.
But also,
I'm gonna get a Keystone Light real quick.
I mean, but also, do I just want to taste someone's foot that was mashing the grapes? I mean, that's really all wine is, right?
Happen.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Nobody fucking does that.
Right. Whose foot, Bri? Whose foot?
Damage him. No, I think, like I said, not doing devil's advocate, but there is like I said, there's a mentality, and this is for me. Like I said, if I'm having a wine night, I automatically think like I'm having good dinner. It's the experiences are different. The mentality of the night is like, I don't think wine and think like I'm gonna party and go hard tonight. I generally think I'm gonna really enjoy like this dinner. I'm gonna sit with some friends, do whatever, and it's gonna be more calm. If I'm doing whiskey, and I'm not talking about like a nice glass of whiskey. I'm saying like if you're really doing whiskey, you're like, okay, like we're going to raid the whole town tonight. Like what the hell is gonna happen? So it's just I feel like you'll never do that on wine. It's just it's different. One's an SUV and one's a muscle car. There's a difference. When we get too many games and Jim is blackout drunk from trying all this stuff, we will definitely throw down the different types. I'm down.
I'm really known for really extending for these type of things too. Like I used to have like wine tasting parties over at my house with like my slow pitch softball team or whatever, and they would come over and be like, "Are you like?" I'd have 12 bottles to taste, plus the bubbly to start, and they would look at me, "Oh my god, this is too much." I'm like, have you met me?
All right, so here's the trick. I'll bring 6 bottles of whiskey. You bring 6 bottles of wine.
That's it?
I just can't wait to let her down when she's like, okay, this one has this and all these hints of this and all these notes of this, and I drink it and I go, yeah, it's pretty good.
That's the best adjectives you're getting now, Jim. Jim will say, it's pretty good, gets the job done, or, yeah, it's okay.
It's all right. It's like, or it's like, oh, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
That's fine by me. As long as you try it, that's all I care about.
Oh.
All right, and then our final topic, another recurring bit. It'll be interesting based off of your last podcast. Overrated or underrated? Fireball whiskey.
Overrated. 100%
And-
overrated.
So you had mentioned you didn't try it till more recently, but before then, did like everyone you know try to get you into it? Because like you said in college, obviously it never hit, but like outside of college, was there a reason like you kind of avoided it? Like does cinnamon and whiskey just sound like a complete turnoff for you?
I just don't think I really like the idea of cinnamon in general for my liquor. Kind of like how I don't like black licorice. I just wasn't like, I'm not looking for that. So I never hunted it down, and I wasn't really hanging around people who were having it all the time, I guess. So just never, it's just like one of those things by association. It just never happened. Just didn't hit me.
So what I'm gathering is as a kid, you were more winter fresh and not big red.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't Big Red.
Yeah.
I was more of a Fruit Stripes kind of girl.
Flavor's gone in 2 seconds,
right.
and you put the whole pack in your mouth.
Yes.
You're like, God damn you, zebra!
They were so good for that 2 seconds, though.
It was the
God, they
best
were.
gum ever. And then you're like, wow, this is really gone.
And every kid has
Really
that story of eating a whole pack, too.
Yep.
Within like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I did love your
I-
review of it, though, when you were just like 5 minutes in, you're just like, yeah, I can see why people would, if you want to drink a Big Red the whole time, you're trying to not like to outright bash it. I'm just like, come on, just let loose. Just do it. Just do it. I know you're hating it right now.
I hated it. I hate it. It's sitting downstairs on my liquor cabinet. It's gonna sit there for the next 4 years. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it.
Yeah, see, I don't want to bring it up
Okay.
earlier in the show, but Fireball is another one of those ones I just can't do anymore because I've puked it up so many goddamn times.
dude,
And
That's
so
a
many.
nasty.
Like that was we had our phase where all of our friends bachelor party, like all the bachelor parties, and we'd always just stock up on handles of Fireball, pass the bottles around and shit like that. And
Well, you know what it
that was
is
its own kind of hangover, and just like death the next day because you have that extra sugar like you talked about on top of just the cheap liquor and feeling like death. So like I sniff it these days, and I'm just like
Yeah. And that's the thing is like a lot. See, I was always I would try to push the heavier whiskeys, but back then a lot of our friends were like, I can't do shots of like even simple shit, Jameson, Jack. Like they're like, no.
They need
And
that
so
sugar.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's Fireball was that perfect. Like you're still doing whiskey, it's still strong, but it's very very sweet, and everyone could do it. But yeah, I haven't. Man, I haven't had in a long time. I think it got overrated just for the sheer sense of how much it blew up. Yeah, it was literally everywhere. I enjoyed my time with it, but it's something like I don't miss, and I don't miss like going back to it. So yeah, I can never call that underrated.
yeah. There's something to be said for being accessible. Like it's definitely a more accessible whiskey, that kind of deal. But then they tried to sue a bunch of other people for putting cinnamon in their whiskey, so fuck them. Which, thank you for your show. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, they're trying to monopolize that it's cinnamon whiskey because they want to be the one and only cinnamon whiskey. Which, I mean, with so many times with alcohol, they have legal designations. You have to call something a particular thing. Like if it is mezcal or if it's tequila, it is tequila if it says 100% blue agave or agave on the label. If it doesn't say that, then it's a mixto. So there are legal implications to that, tax-wise and all that kind of other bullshit.
Yeah.
So cinnamon whiskey has no legal tie to it, but they just want it because they're so in the market and they have 95% of the market share for that particular product that they want to stay there. Why wouldn't you? You're making all this shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Making this bullshit.
It's literally, I mean, on one hand, you almost can't blame them because when people think cinnamon whiskey, even though there are the other types, I actually tried a cinnamon whiskey. One of the first alcohols I ever tried. I was probably 16 or 17. I was at like one of my ex's house and like, for whatever her reason, her mom's like, "Oh, we have this like cinnamon whiskey. It tastes like Big Red." It wasn't Fireball. I forget the name of it, but I remember I was like, "That's fucking disgusting." But yeah, like nowadays, cinnamon whiskey and Fireball are synonymous, like Band-Aids and Kleenex. Like,
Yeah.
It's just a name brand that's what everyone's going to associate. So I don't like it. Jim and I have talked about so many assholes in alcohol that sue other people and sue happy.
Yeah.
So that kind of, that bums me out, but you almost kind of can't blame them because they really are the number one game in town. And it's kind of like if Jameson was like, "We're the only Irish whiskey," it's like, you're not even close, but, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Sucks.
So you're sticking with Overrated.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say is it's definitely better than any wine. So
I mean,
You
when
just
you're right,
wanted
you're right.
me to raise my eyebrows. And
Yeah.
just be like, the fuck?
I'm just waiting for that cinnamon whiskey infused wine to come out.
I mean, I've never had a, barrel, bourbon barrel aged Cabernet Sauvignon Homme d'Enfant that was better than Sutter Home. So, it's all the same, really.
I will say
My heart.
Actually,
One of
Sutter
the-
Home's one of the worst hangovers you can actually have, too. Like,
when you drink the whole bottle, yeah, of course, Jim.
well, how else do you drink it?
Because
You just don't drink it.
chemically infused. Like, it's not really, like, so much of wine. This
Oh,
is
I
what
know.
people
No,
think
I know
that's-
it's garbage. I would know
It's
full
garbage. It's chemically, they're manipulating the shit out of this wine to make it all taste the same because they want that. That's what brings people back, is that sense of having it taste the same because there's so many variations between
Yeah.
vintage and grape quality and all this kind of other bullshit. When things like that, they want it to say. So what they do is it's a made in the chemistry room versus made in the vineyard.
See, I
It's-
thought it was
it's
the
a McDonald's
$7
of
for
wine.
I thought it was the $7 for 400 grams of it or whatever, of fucking liters. 400 liters for $7. That I thought that's what brought people back.
Maybe that too.
I mean, people
That's
do
one where
like-
you wake up the next day and you feel like your body temperature is 120 degrees. Like that's a whole different headache and hangover from fucking beer and liquor. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah, though it is weird that wine hangovers, even on good wines, I always, those are the worst headaches I've ever had versus any other type of alcohol. And I don't think much more about it other than when I know I'm drinking a lot of wine, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have a headache tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Drink more water.
yeah.
Don't be a bitch.
And excuse me, if you're going to continue to be a Philly sports fan, you need to say Wooder. All right,
Get the terrible slang right.
you gotta come correct with that.
When I lived in Texas, they would make fun of me because I would say tournament, and they'd be like, "No, what is a tournament?" I'm like, "It's a tournament." Tournament. They would just give me so much shit for it. I'm like, I don't understand. It's a tournament.
I didn't know tournament. I didn't know tournament was a different one. Like I knew towel, I knew water, I knew shit like that. I didn't know tournament was one of those ones.
Tournament is one.
Wow.
Huh?
Tournament.
Wow.
They say tournament. I'm like, what's a fucking tournament? Tournament.
Huh?
Blow
Interesting.
your mind.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Well, they get like a half inch of snow and then they can't drive for a week. So fuck them.
That's DC. You don't have to
Yeah,
go far for
this
that.
is true.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but Michelle, we do want to say before we do any of our sign offs, we want to make sure you get out, plug away your podcast anywhere else everyone can find you, social media. Please plug away.
You can find me on Twitter at Petee's Power Hour. I'm not as fun as you guys are on Twitter.
That's all Jim.
Jim's quite festive and fun. I'm just like, damn.
That's one way to put it.
I really am 50% brand and 50% shit posting at this point. So if I had delusions of like grandeur at this point, they're all gone at this point. So it's just like I'm gonna have fun.
I'm on Instagram too. I think at Petee's Power Hour. You can email me at peteespowerhour@gmail.com. My podcast is Petee's Power Hour. You can look that up. Petee spelled P-E-T-E-E, not E-Y. I'm not Petey Pablo. And yeah, come drink with me. Come hang out.
and we have all of her links below. Please make sure to go over, as you know, newer to podcast game, but please go give her some support, give her some love. Make sure you give her the ratings. We really, really do appreciate you coming on, and we really do look forward to an eventual power hour where we're legit drinking hard together. Can't wait for the too many games with the whiskey and wines.
Yes, can't wait.
Oh yeah, we're gonna throw down. It's gonna be fun.
We're gonna have to figure out which alcohol makes Jim worse. He'll be our guinea pig.
Great.
Yeah.
Every night. Friday we're gonna do this one. See how drunk you are. That's drunk.
There you go. Yeah, we'll compare a complete hangover.
Oh, there's an idea.
Ooh, Jim, you're gonna have a whiskey hangover and then a wine hangover. That's gonna be fun.
God. I still say the wine one will be worse.
Well, I mean, drinking it too is gonna be worse.
Well, yeah.
But no, we really do want to say thank you. We truly appreciate it. With that, we want to say to everyone else, please make sure if you haven't already, hit subscribe below if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a rating if you haven't already. We're available on every social media app. And with that, we want to say have a good night, guys, and cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
My water.
I know if I'm going the wrong way.